So I think the main problem, what I want to discuss and what I want to hear, so in Eastern Europe we have a lot of bright students, but what to do with these students because they want to escape to other countries, and how to motivate them to stay in Eastern Europe and do something here, or maybe better not to motivate them and just to let them do what they're doing, and maybe some of them will return. And maybe you have some understanding about some changes what happened in the last 2 years, etc. I believe like Victor can share something what happening in Ukraine because he's doing something interesting here. I was also allowed to say what, but this conversation not about Ukraine only, so I want to just it's not about Ukraine, but for example, oh yeah, take a seat, yeah. And what interesting, so I was allowed to talk with university from Lviv, UKU, planning to start R&D lab in computer vision this year. It will be, I think, very interesting for like news for Ukraine. So and but they not allowed me to share any other details. So I don't want to talk about this, but they at least allowed to say me what it's probably will happen this autumn. And for the beginning, I just want to give microphone to Victor, and he will tell me what he's doing is as a university. And after that, it will be interesting to see your thoughts about what help to do in Eastern Europe to motivate best students to stay here, or how you see how is low money to do something. Maybe you can, like partisan, something interesting. And Victor, tell what you doing in Ukraine.
Yes, thanks, Vitaly. Hi, colleagues. I probably will not answer your core question, how to keep those nice students here, because there are maybe two things to keep those guys here. One of that is providing the content in university. If the content has a high quality, then good students want to get this content. And the second one is financial situation. So after graduation, the one, especially researcher, wants to get enough to research. And so I would tell mostly about the first stuff. So actually, based on leader in terms of ideology, Schlesinger, Mikhail, and I'm currently leading from organizational standpoint. So we are organizing the computer vision and machine learning specialization. I believe that's the first one in Ukraine. So based on Kyiv Polytechnical University, actually in Institute of Physics and Technology. I actually believe there are several universities in Ukraine with very strong basis, very strong first 4 courses in bachelor, and then sometimes something wrong happens in master's education, and the first thesis might be approved by James, right? So do you have good guys from Ukraine in Prague with good basic education? Okay, smiling. Well, and so what we are doing is collecting a group of teachers, and based on actually a course which was a kind of non-obligatory course based on Institute of Physics of Technology, which took place for the last 3.5 years there, based on some materials Mikhail Ivanovich provided. We have collected what is missed in knowledge of those guys who come there. So there were many students from different years of study, and tried to address this in this 3 semesters program, which actually starts from September 1st. And actually master program, we are actually currently hiring for this master program. Sorry for that. Yeah, so, okay. So anyone may apply. Yeah, that's actually kind of yeah, government financing is there. So we believe the content to be good enough. There are several groups, and I'll share what will be there. So, okay, probably that was very brief introduction. So maybe there are some questions, and then it might be a bit deeper.
James, I will give you last. You will be speak last because you know different worlds. It will be interesting to me. Mr. Bogdan, what you can tell me about Poland? Like what happening here? Because I from your presentation, I saw what you have students from Kazakhstan, from different countries. Yeah. So tell us like what happening with Poland about this pain? Because I believe like the best students from Poland moving to other universities also. So what happening here? Just but practical, etc.
So first of all, I am sure that Ukraine will be in European Union. I wish you, and I am sure. That is maybe the problem of time. I don't know when. That is the only question. So my experience is, so I previously worked at several universities, including German. I spent in German almost 2 years, also in France. I done research in Iria and so on, so on. But my stays were temporal, so 1 or 2 years. And in my opinion, relatively good solution is to work abroad, including Poland, including my university, and then maybe come back. And you should remember about this. So at the moment, so previously from Poland, when Poland joined the European Union, it was big immigration. Maybe 1 million, very good, young, well-educated, maybe the best young people emigrated to UK, Germany, several European countries. And now, maybe in Poland is about 1 million, the best people from Ukraine. They are working, the best engineers and so on, including my university. So at my university, in the computer science, in order to be a student, you should have 930 points of 1,000. It is very high threshold. But after a long discussion, my department also, from 2 years, accept also students from Ukraine. Maybe not the 10%, but as far as I remember, this year we accepted 10 very good students. And as observe, considerable number of such, say, young people, students, work naturally in Poland, establish collaboration and so on, and then return, come back to Ukraine. And that is very good. So, in my opinion, good solution is to spend some time abroad, establish good collaboration, make good collaboration, including Krakow. In Krakow, there are plenty of companies from Silicon Valley, including Google, Samsung, almost all they are. And then, given such international background, maybe to come back and then work. Because at the moment, yeah, this globalization and so on, and we should open, make collaboration and so on. I understand we still have the same maybe problem. Not enough number of research institutions supported by European Union, not sufficient number of grants, and so on and so on. maybe you have still the same problems. And as I said, I am almost sure that Ukraine will be in the European Union, and you now should create this such community which should we be able to make this transfer and so on and so on.
Thank you. A few words about from your experience. You have interesting experience too.
Okay, thank you. I'm more from an industrial part of this audience. I'm not affiliated with any academia right now, although I teach in a private school, sort of for professionals. I teach algorithms, and I look at people who come. There is a big demand for so it's a little bit like philosophical view. So what happened in Ukraine? At some point, software outsourcing emerged, and a big part of market is in outsourcing. So people can get a nice salary there, but it sort of became, if a person is smart, it becomes boring, and he or she wants to do something interesting, and there are options. He or she can emigrate or find a product company in Ukraine, which are few. And so, but for this they need some fundamentals which a lot of people lack, because they are not necessary for typical tasks. I mean, in outsourcing, out staff projects. So they, if they are already professionals, they come for this. But the problem is that the gap is so large. I mean, like an arithmetic progression or an equation of a line on a plane, they are like showstoppers basically for people. This is one part. It's like professional people who have a great resumes, who have a nice salaries. And the other part, we have students which go to traditional universities. Like me or Victor, we finished Ukrainian universities, and yes, there is a big gap between what is taught and what is really necessary for jobs. So there is less and less motivation for people to go to mathematical specialties or science specialties, because I mean, right now, of course, I think my decision to go to Kyiv Polytechnical Institute is very nice, because I got a fundament in math and stuff. But it's not clear for a high schooler why he or she should specialize in math. It's not popular, despite the fact that it's useful. So, I mean, so maybe we need to popularize the math and science again, like it was sort of in Soviet Union, and it's not like that right now. I mean, concentrate on this part, because if we don't have a base of people who are interested in doing science, we will never get scientists, even if we will fund the academia, I mean, university levels. But if there are less people who want to do some science, and we can solve it with funding on university level. That's my feeling, because a lot of people who really skipped all school math, and even they work as programmers, and still they hate math. And it's like, how can you do work like this? And somehow it happens. I don't know. It's a big question. I don't have an answer. So,
what interesting now happening in Central Europe and Eastern Europe, what some big corporates, including like Chinese corporates, they started to open offices, like R&D offices here. So at least they create some jobs. For sure, they're moving a lot of people abroad, but this is some way how possible to work here. So I think this is something because before that they is trying to open in United States, in Western Europe, and now they come into Central Europe and Eastern Europe. So I think this is interesting too. Yeah, one remark and then give to James.
Yeah, so it's worth to mention that actually that master program we are opening from the day one. It has an option of dual education, which means there is a signed document with a company, so the students officially may work and study, and probably that will be an option in some time without some gap between practical and this university education. So that's a remark.
Tell us something. Because this day, today you're not a speaker, but I hope next year you'll be a speaker. And but tell us about education.
So I will ask. I will answer your question instead of smiling. The Ukrainian students we had at CTU that I worked with, and also that I know where they were. Two of them were Professor Schlesinger's students, and another. Well, they were all excellent. But we were sampling from the best part of the distribution. So, but they're excellent fundamentally. And I think now UCU, for example, UKU has sent 7 or 8 interns to CTU for summer internships. So that's an exciting relationship that has started. I guess I'd like to talk a little bit, I guess, about what I've seen since I was looking at my passport, and I've been here quite a number of times now, unexpectedly, mostly because of my Ukrainian friends. And I see what's remarkable is that it's clear that this is all in the context of computer vision and to some extent machine learning. And what you see is that the institutions have failed these students or these people who are interested in these fields. And you've seen a remarkable amount of self-organization, which is really inspiring, actually, and some very talented people. I had the pleasure of teaching the winter school at UCU, and I met some very talented people. And in fact, 2 of those went on to publish at NIPS as co-authors, and even they were participating in a CVPR paper. So I think that it's sort of a byproduct that I had never seen before, which is level of self-organization in these computer vision and machine learning communities. So there's sort of something there to be tapped, and remarkably talented people. I don't like from an institutional standpoint. Like for example, the Czech Republic has Gotcher, which is the grant agency of the Czech Republic, that is funding research, and this is in the context of research. But for PhD students and starting professors and so forth, they have access to Gotcher. And I don't think, at least at this point, that there is any sort of analog in Ukraine. And I think that if to sort of catalyze at least in CV and ML, to start publishing at top-level conferences and journals, this funding needs to be there so students can work full-time. They don't have a part-time job. They can focus on their research. And the funding is there to live a reasonable life. I think that's sort of the necessary condition to start this process. I would say that to the point that you made, that students aren't interested in fundamentals of mathematics and science. Well, I think that seeing these kind of cool problems and working on them motivates the need to know these things, and maybe learning by example that you need to have this stuff. And I think a great way for Ukrainian students to start publishing at high-level conferences with regularity is to start publishing at entry-level conferences, like there's the Computer Vision Winter Workshop, and Susanna Kukelova hosted it this year, but it rotates through Central Europe. So it's a academic conference and it's refereed, but the whole point of it is so that young researchers who are starting their PhD or even master's students can have something evaluated by experts and get something you would get from, for example, a CVPR conference or something similar to that, so they can get feedback on the quality of their research and the direction and so forth. And I would say that in order, at least from the academic context, which I speak not from the industrial one, that getting students to start publishing immediately is what really motivates them to start learning these hard concepts, because they are sometimes boring and hard. But for example, at CTU and now at other places, like we just push people just to write something, submit, so that they get practical experience writing, and also they can test their ideas in a formal sense and try to solve a problem that is at a research, at least can be published at a conference level. And I think this motivates the ambition to sort of pursue harder issues in mathematics. I think that in terms of the brain drain in Ukraine, I mean, it's certainly there, but it's even there in Czech Republic. But I think that for, at least in the academic context, that there has to be, I mean, the self-organization, as I've seen, is very inspiring. And I've seen, for example, everybody knows Dmitry Mishkin and Anastasia Mishuk. They published these papers, and they sort of were bringing people along with them to do research. But in the end, you need the institutional support of your governments and universities, especially the government level, the funding. And I know that this is a problem. So it's sort of how does this get solved? How does this improve on that side? Because it can't always be a grassroots movement. There has to be some support from the top. But I think that if students, if they're finding venues to publish at these entry-level conferences in academics, and they're getting the money they need to spend full time on their research to live some reasonable life, then they will stay. Maybe not totally, but in a higher proportion. And those are the basics, I think, to solve this problem. So.
I recently visited China, and they have a fund like $30-something billion to educate students abroad and then bring them back and pay them salaries as United States. And they're giving a lot of, and from like, as I remember statistic, 10 years ago, % of students who stayed in United States or UK was 95. So 95 students decided to stay in United States, in UK, and Western Europe. Now it's like 50-50. So half of people who, so they're actually using educational system of Western countries to educate people, and then they bring them back, and they then establishing some R&D labs in, I don't know, Tsinghua University, Peking University, etc. So, okay, the solution, unique solution is money. I'm understanding this. Without money, probably it's hard to do anything. Do you want anything to add? Maybe someone have questions? No? I'll tire it. You have question? No? Yeah.
Actually, I moved to computer vision from quite different disciplines like theoretical physics. But from my point of view, I think that maybe it's just time in Ukraine to establish the necessary course in basic machine learning for at least all STM education or economics or things like that. Because from my point of view, when I was the student, I had the luck of applying some recent, for example, numerical things for solving the equations in quantum mechanics, for example. But from my point of view, I think that if at that time I got the course in basic machine learning things like what is the regression, how to make some predictable model and things like that, it will be quite easy for me for doing the switch. But from my point of view, I don't think that this is actually the switch, because I'm using the models I learned in physics. For example, and solve some computer vision problems like Ising model for conditional random fields. And I think there are a lot of people in physics, for example, that do want to do computer vision, but they do not have the connection in their mind that all the mathematics and statistics they have learned in the university will help them to make money. And I talked to all my former colleagues in universities, and then they do not understand how this Schrödinger equation, for example, may help you to solve a segmentation problem or other things. So if there will be the necessary course in basic machine learning that may a little bit lower the threshold for acceptance in the industry. Because physics is quite nice discipline, and because they teach you to solve real-life problems using mathematics. So you are thinking as the engineer, but a little bit at a higher level, because you think that mathematics is just a tool for solving some physical things. But it may help people for solving the real-world problems instead of crunching the data sets that are already published, like it is common right now. And people from different disciplines may use machine learning for solving real-life problems, and this thing, like necessary course, may help them to vision this more properly. Just my opinion as the former student.
We recently had a talk with some people who are interested to change something in education, and one of the thoughts was to make Coursera obligated at our universities. Yeah, it could work. Yeah, it should work. But no, for sure, no, it's with some motivation, but it's very hard to. But in less developed countries, it's easy to put in education like something like Coursera, etc. Then we can maybe increase percentage of people who will be catched by machine learning or something. So they could be impressed. And this is one of the methods with no significant investments. And maybe we should we're thinking now how to do this on level of like ministry level, etc. Any more questions or comments? No? Yeah? Oh, okay. Okay. No, we will go like this.
So maybe I'm not entitled to comment on this, but I want to share something that that I can. So personally, I'm involved a little bit, let's say, involved or interested in philosophy, and that's why I try to kind of go to a couple of philosophy conferences as well. And how these people are doing it is slightly different than how we are doing it. So I'm not saying one is better or worse than the other, but I'm just saying there can be something to take away from this. So they go to a conference, many people, and some of them present their current ideas. There is nothing, there is no paper about this. It's just you go up the stage, you present your idea. Then someone from the audience likes your idea, maybe. And then you find collaboration there. So regardless where these people come from, they find collaborations. And then they join together and they write a paper together. And this is how they actually write the paper. So they go to the conferences to network, so to explicitly network. And in the old times, I think it was also in the Soviet Union, as you said, that people really gathered together in places. So just like the thing you do here today, but in a more general context. So there is one mountain close to Black Forest in Germany, where mathematicians go from time to time, and they come together and they discuss their ideas there. And they stay there, they live there for a week. It's like a small commune. And recently computer scientists started going there, just to make things happen. And mathematicians were bothered with this because, the level was going down. And now for computer scientists, there is like another area close to Saarbrücken where they do the exact same thing. And I know that also in Turkey, so I'm from Turkey, I know that there is something called a mathematics village where you go with other mathematicians and you try to do stuff. So this is nice, I think, because, some kind of these philosophical gatherings in those allocated locations, because that gives you the chance to interact with many people from the world, even if you are from, regardless the country you are in. It's just for the collaboration itself. So doing this more often, in our countries, because Turkey is also not the best country. And I think it will stimulate a lot of things. And of course, these people always want to come back, right, to these conferences, to these gatherings. because they want to give something. So everyone wants to give something. It's just the money is not there maybe, but they want to give something. So it's easy to host these gatherings maybe in certain locations like this. And then when the paper goes out, somehow you just put the name of this place, right? And it becomes the seed of an institution even, kind of.
Yeah, we have some, by the way, we have some plan because few universities recognize it what it's possible to motivate like good speakers at this conference. So we have some plans next summer to have like summer data school or something with UKU, with maybe with some other universities, and to make it something here. So we'll see. But this is some plan. I'm not responsible for this plan. I'm just responsible to bring some people, and if these people will be motivated to stay more, we can maybe do something here. Yeah, I know what in USSR some in Odessa was some like mathematician camp of mathematician from Moscow, from St. Petersburg. So they spent here like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What you're saying? Yeah, but this tradition, as I know, lost. So it was like 30 years ago. But yeah, but. We'll see. So it's more now. It's, you know, it should be. We'll see. So next summer we'll see what we can do this year. But thank you for sharing. I can take 2 more remarks. We probably have time, but no, you okay?
Okay, small remark from me that like I'm also a student and I think of a pretty decent faculty in computer science, and one of the really big things for me was that during some math classes or something I couldn't understand how could I apply those knowledge that was given to me by professors in real life, and that was a huge deal breaker for me, because like the way at least my mind works is that like I always try to understand how can I apply it, and if I understand that, I can learn the material much easier. And like, so like one of the points is that we could somehow, I don't know, create this list of samples, for example, right? Because most of the math nowadays seems to be directly applicable in machine learning. So if me as a student would know that, like, I don't know, this, I don't know, linear regression or something is applicable here, and these Gaussian processes are applicable there, it would be much easier for me during the university to pay more attention, understand deeper, and so learn better.
Sorry, sorry, yeah, sure. And then I will give you one.
Okay. I just wanted to respond that, like, so computer vision is a strange field in that look at how much math from different specialties you saw today. You saw algebraic geometry, you saw Riemannian geometry, like this. You saw statistics on Riemannian manifolds, like, so you had Bayesian estimation. You saw, of course, there's deep learning, and so the attitude I have now, if I see something, if someone is teaching me some mathematics, I just learn it, because most likely it'll show up somewhere, again, in computer vision, because it's a multidisciplinary field and it spans statistics and geometry and many different things. So this discrete math, of course. So you're going to be surprised if you hate some field of mathematics. It will later come and bite you, because it'll be something that you need in computer vision. Basically, there's optimization, of course, too. So,
just I will give you the word and yeah.
Okay. For some time, I've spent in Eastern countries, and I've been communicating with professors and master degree students and PhD students, and what I've seen that. In some labs, the money comes not from the government, but actually from the commercial projects. So the big companies come to the lab and pay the money for the research. I wonder if it's a common practice in European countries and European universities, and is it possible to do in Ukraine in the future, and why it's not so popular right now here? So those are my questions.
No, recently I remember like Samsung invested $50-something million to open a R&D center together, I think in Munich or in somewhere in Germany. So, and this is what actually they're doing. Some big commercial companies establishing R&D offices together with universities. I'm not sure about Ukraine because we have some. There are no. It's like very separated. So yeah. So something. So it's not same. It's not a joint venture. So it's probably. But yeah. Okay.
Yes, there is some practice in Ukraine also, but the story in Ukraine is the following. So company does some investment just in case it is able to get something. And if we are talking about something new, so computer vision, machine learning, which is not established, then this case in Ukraine for now is possible after some company will be able to take something from that. So that's what I actually see. Which means it should be established, provide some results without such cases, and then probably there might be some such cases.
You have some remarks. Yes, we just want to.
I can comment on both questions. First, I was a lecturer at Yandex Data Science School at some time. And it was, Yandex is a commercial company. The school was free for students, but has a very high entrance level. So you need to solve a difficult exam. And I think my year, you had to solve like 2 problems out of 8. So you can imagine the complexity of the problems. And I was able to solve like 3 to 4. At this moment, I just glanced at it. So it wasn't easy. And it was difficult. It was like every semester, like half of group was like sent off. But still, people went there. But it was a long-term investment from Yandex. Long-term. It was 2 years, and they hire like maybe half or a small part of the people who left after 2 years. So it's maybe like 0 to 1 people. And still, it's 2 years. It's less than a bachelor's degree span. And Yandex is a big company. They did that. Of course, they were interested, but not every company can do that. I think that if they start thinking about like 4 years time to return like this investment, it's maybe not that doable. If we talk about like fundamental stuff, because at that school there was a lot of fundamental stuff. Yeah, I really liked it. The students were like very motivated and prepared and such. But when Yandex realized that they can't hire anyone because of the war between Russia and Ukraine, and like people were finishing the school and then went to any company except Yandex. So they closed it. So basically, they had that like commercially interested, and they closed it immediately when they realized that they can't hire anybody. So that's it. Yeah. And regarding the previous question about the fun examples in math, of course, I support this. I think that examples help, not that help a lot, but it's a deal breaker. For many people, math looks a bit too abstract, and how is it taught? But I think it's not that this this tradition was made to like frustrate students. No, from my point of view, I remember a lot of books say like on calculus, like first 2 years of university, and they had quite a lot of examples, but which were interesting to me, but not to anybody. Why? Because they were like from say 60s, yeah, when physics was like super popular field, and there are and there were no computers. So examples like approximately calculate the stuff using Taylor expansion were like really fun in 60s, I think. It's really cool. You can like do calculations like Feynman did in Brazil, like this cool stuff with a paper and a pencil. But right now, these examples are not fun. People don't understand why. And these new examples from deep learning are not yet in the books. And deep learning became popular just in like 6 years ago, right? In 2012. So I think we need time for these examples to like move into the books on calculus and stuff. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
Any final remarks from your side? We have like 5 minutes now. Okay. Thank you very much. You can